Hello again and welcome back to my garage. Today it's a wee short video and it's basically an update to the video I put out a week ago regarding the Keis heated clothing, which performs well, but I've come upon a couple of maybe a potential problem with it, and especially regarding the Royal Enfield. I mean, I bought the Keis clothing at the beginning of this year, and I used it in the early part of the year on the Honda NC, and had no problems whatsoever with it. I could run it all day on full heat, the gloves and the body warmer on full heat all day long, no issues whatsoever on the Honda NC. Worked perfectly. But I've used it on this bike now about 3 times. The first time was after when I had actually fitted it to the bike, and I made the first video, which went out a week ago. And it seemed to work, it was working great, working well. I've had a couple of runs since then. The first run I was out for a whole day's run, all day, and I only had the body warmer. I didn't have the gloves with me that day because it wasn't too cold. And I was running it the whole day on low and medium heat. Trouble-free, no problem whatsoever. It was excellent, kept me lovely and warm all day long. The second time I used it, it was a shorter run. It was only about 65, 70 miles, but it was colder. And I had my gloves and the body warmer on, and they were on full heat for the whole time. When at the end of the run, just when I was coming back to the garage, I noticed that the battery light on the bike was flashing off and on. I thought, well, that's odd. I've never seen that happen before. It always just goes off when the bike starts and it stays off. So I thought, that's really strange. So I thought, I'll have to do a wee bit of investigation here. So I thought, well, the first thing I thought was to make sure the bike was charging okay. So basically unplugged the heated vest and stuff and got my voltmeter out, connected my voltmeter across the battery, started the bike up and ran it, and the bike was running at 14 volts, which is perfect. It showed the alternator and is charging the bike properly. So I was confident there's no problem whatsoever with the charging circuit on the bike. I put on, I have a C-Tech battery charger, battery conditioner, which I plug into both the bikes to keep them topped up. And the run that I went on where I had the problem, the bike had been on the battery charger conditioner overnight, so I knew when I went out that day the battery was fully charged. On my return, after 60 odd miles, you would still, when the bike was running, you would still think the battery would be fully charged. So I put my battery charger back on it, and it only went up to 2 lights, instead of about the 5 lights on and the green light on the charger. So I thought, oh, that's odd, so it's having to charge, the battery's not fully charged, which is odd. So then I started to do a bit more kind of investigating and wondered what potentially the problem could be. I looked at the batteries, and I was comparing it with the NC and this bike. And if the battery on the NC is an 11 amp hour battery, the battery on the Enfield is only an 8 amp hour battery. So it's a much more heavy duty battery on the NC, which I suppose you would expect. It's a bigger bike and all the rest. But then this was more difficult to try and find out what the actual alternator output is. On the NC, it's a 420 watt alternator, but on this week 350, it's only 156 watt, so it's nowhere near as powerful an alternator. The NC, I mean, when it's running, it's always running with the lights on, but all the lights on are LED. So it's basically running LED lighting all the time when it's in use, and also power to charge up, keep it running all the time. With the Enfield, again, it all runs with the headlight on all the time, the headlight and the small running lights as well, and basically a tail light. So I looked at between the wattage on that's basically running at 70 watts. It's drawing all the time, just for the headlight, the running lights and the tail light. it's all obviously going to draw some more power for the coils and the ignition system and stuff. So it's impossible to know what that actually draws. So I basically did an estimate, and I thought, well, okay, give it 50 watts to run the rest of the bike, running the indicators off and on and various bits and pieces. So basically I was looking at a total wattage use on the bike on its own of about 120 watts. That only leaves me potentially 36 watts for anything else. So potentially in normal use, not having anything plugged into anything extra electrical on this bike, this will run no problem at all. It'll charge, keep charging itself, and it'll be perfect, trouble-free. But I was using the Keis jacket and body warmer. And this is where it gets a wee bit more difficult as well, because basically the Keis gloves, it's hard to know how much power they actually use. Keis give a typical power usage of 19.2 watts. And the body warmer, a typical power of 18 watts. But how much does it draw running on low, medium and high? That's pretty much an unknown quantity. But then, whatever way you look at it, if they're saying a typical power draw would be that gives a total draw of 37.2 watts. And if you take that off my 36, I'm losing power. It's a minus 1.2 watts when the bike's running. So it's pretty much, in my opinion, it's pushing the alternator and the charging circuit to its maximum, and it's just not able to fully charge the bike. And that's why after that, running on full power with the heated clothing, and after 60, 70 miles, and the battery was discharging to a point where it was the battery light was coming on to say, I'm low in power. It's not perfect. So I think what it's proved is that although you can use the heated clothing, you've got to be pretty careful what your power draw is, and to use it all on full power, you certainly could never use it for the whole day. It just wouldn't work. The bike would die on you. So I've kind of resigned myself to thinking, well, potentially I'd maybe only use the gloves, or I might only use the body warmer if I'm on this particular bike, and see how it goes at that. I think just using one garment, it should be fine. And certainly if you're running them on low or medium power, it's going to use slightly less as well. So I think it's a kind of suck it and see situation. So if, like me, you're going down the electric clothing route and hoping to use it on the wee classic Enfields, I think you're going to have to be pretty careful in how much power you actually do draw from it. So it's not perfect. The heated clothing works perfectly on the NC. I've used it many times and it's totally trouble-free. You can be absolutely roasting hot all day long. But I have to say, even in when I was out for the full day and I was running it on even low and medium, your body was kept lovely and warm. It was perfect. It was really excellent. Anyway, that was basically a little update on what the position was, because I had a few comments came on after I put the last video up, wondering about the power draw and if it would be okay. And at that point, I thought it was okay, but it isn't really. It's not perfect. Anyway, I'll put a link to my last video in the video description for this one. I hope you found this update a bit useful if you're considering going down the heated clothing route, and we'll catch you on another video. Bye for now.